Man, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Saturday, y'all. Even if it ain't Saturday, whatever day that y'all possibly could be watching this, good afternoon, good morning, good night, I don't know. Man, what's going on, y'all? What is going on? What is going on? As per usual, I hope y'all been blessed. Hope that y'all been walking in the light of your purpose, seeking it out, trying to discover the meaning of your life. We're about to get started soon. We are about to get started soon. This time I brought something different out. Something I haven't used in years. And shout out to my boy Johnny. Back when I was doing the Serve Your Purpose classes in this barbershop, we brought out the whiteboard. In fact, I think this whiteboard that I got right down here came from him as well. Yeah. This is going to be a special live. We will be talking about uniting the opposites. The importance of uniting the opposites. Since I found myself bringing this up, what's going on, Jackson? How's it going? I've been finding myself talking about this last couple of days. What's going on? How y'all doing, everybody? And I feel as though this would be very, very important, Addison, how's it going, to bring this up. Yeah, try to get these likes up, try to get more people into this live. I am fine. I had an early morning today. My morning started around 6, and it's like currently 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Turn those books sideways so we can read the titles. Man, I don't know if I'm going to do all that, to be quite honest. I don't know if I'm going to do all of that. The one thing that I find myself talking about on here a lot, I'm always talking about like the inner life. I'm always talking about the goal of becoming whole. We might be interested in reading them. Yeah, just if you want to know some of the titles of some of these books up here, I can definitely tell you 110% if you're interested. If you're interested. There's one book that I just got. This book is like huge. It's like huge. I read something from this from the last live that I did. If you guys want to go check it out, this book is like humongous. Like, look how big this book is, yo. This book is like humongous. Like, look at this. It's like giant. It's like huge. Very interesting. But yeah, like I said, I'm talking about a lot about wholeness, talking a lot about living your inner life and my peace. So that book that I just showed is called The Red Book by Carl Jung. who was a psychologist, one of the pioneers in like modern day psychology, along with Sigmund Freud. At some point, they worked together, but they split apart due to their core beliefs. Carl Jung split from Sigmund Freud. But this book is, in a nutshell, like, say, like, this is the genesis of how he came up with his work in general, which is very, very interesting. And pretty much he would have these visions, and he called them like dramas and plays, where these characters will pop up, and pretty much he would pretty much, ever heard about their complimentary dragon tattoos? No, I never heard about that. But they have these like psychological experiments with these inner figures, and that was the basis for a lot of his practices. True story. Nah, I never heard about that though. Very interesting stuff. But the main reason why I want to talk about, I guess, what I'm talking about is the conversation that I had, which I was like, man, that's like really, really like relevant. Like having that feeling of when you feel as though everything is going good and you're like, it's going too good. There's something that's bad that's probably going to happen because it's going too good, especially if you're so used to things going like bad or something terrible happening in your life. And I was like, wow. Started to this specific individual, and I was like, that's very interesting. She asked me on my thoughts about that. And this morning, I went out to breakfast with my mom, and we was kind of talking about the same thing. So I was like, you know what? I might as well record a live on talking about that. And I'm gonna talk to you guys about my response to her and what that is, even into your deeper inner knowledge. Oh, that sounds interesting. That sounds really interesting. So with me, I use shapes to try to figure things out. Shapes has been super enlightening to me, to be quite honest. And three specific shapes that I find myself using are circles, triangles, and squares. So with the topic at hand today, we're talking about uniting the opposites. I'm going to be using a circle as a reference point to that. And we're probably going to throw a triangle in there. Like I said, this is this is something that I didn't really plan in detail of how this is about to come out. This is just about to come out how it was supposed to. I don't know. I don't know. But hopefully this is like helpful to you guys that are struggling with outside things and feeling as though outside things are affecting your inner life and affecting the way you think and affecting the way that you feel. For example, other people are like making you feel bad, or what's going on at work is making you feel crazy, like people out to get you, or you probably like homeless, or you don't have a car. I don't know. I don't know what the situation could possibly be. But I say all the time that you have to live your life from the inside out and not from the outside in. Because if you live in your life from the outside in, you most likely are living a phantom life and you being an example of something or somebody instead of being your true self. And the most important thing when walking in the light of your purpose is, how do I live my true self? And that's something that no other man can teach you. Right? So I grabbed a piece of paper, right? And I drew a circle. I drew a circle on this piece of paper. And I told her, life is a series of these right here. This is what life is. Life is a series of these, right? Life is a series of ups and downs. Ups and downs. That's all it is. And I told her to point to where is the best spot to be on in this circle. And she pointed up here. Only worry about the things you can actually control. Nobody can make you feel a certain way. That's your own opinion that bothers you. That is such a solid point. Justin Smith, 8021. That's such a solid point. Unfortunately, this is a lot of where issues stem from for majority of people. Is that people let things that's outside of their control, like, control them, and people give away their inner power to outside things that deeply affect them. That's the climate of society right now, is that outside things 100% control people, and you should worry about only the things that you can control. And another crazy thing is almost everything is outside of our control. We can't control honestly anything. You can't even control your heart to stop beating if you even wanted to. It's going to keep going unless you take something from the outside and stop it. That's the only way. But you can't take your mind towards your heart and get it to stop beating. You can't do that. But when I showed this to her and I asked her what is the best place to be on a circle, she pointed up here. She said, wouldn't this be the best place to be on a series of life and its ups and downs? And I said no. And this is a valid thing that she's like said, which most people would say about being at the top of that circle of the series of ups and downs in life, is that's the place of feeling good. And that's why another thing that I often say all the time, don't go for emotions. Don't go for trying to feel happy all the time. And don't go for positive and good feelings all the time. Because life is, yet again, a series of ups and downs. And I told her, by getting to this point up here, that will determine how hard that fall actually is, by trying to stay up here all the time, which is not possible. And she eventually got it right of the best place to be on this circle in a series of the ups and downs of life. And she eventually, if y'all could guess, I put the spot on here, what do y'all think is the best place to be on that circle? Where's the best place to be? If y'all want to put it in the chat. I'm gonna give I guess 10 seconds or 15 seconds to respond, and then I'm gonna just keep going. If y'all had to guess. If y'all had to guess, what would be the best spot to be? I already marked the spot now, but Justin, man, yo, that was a great answer. Wow, that was a great answer. Amazing. Justin said dead center. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And another thing that I was explaining to her while talking about this and everything, is that a lot of people, like I said, they want to be at the top. A lot of people try to avoid the bottom. But if you dead center, it do not matter what happens and what comes at you at the outside of the circle, because notice that the arrows are pointing on the outside of the circle. They're not within the circle. They're on the outside. And like I said, life is a series of ups and downs. It's a cycle. Everything is not going to be good all the time, but on the opposite end, everything is not going to be bad all the time. It's just not. So in order for you to be whole, you have to live, like Justin said, from that dead center point. You have to live from that center point. And another question that I'm going to present to you guys, and I'm going to give 10, 15 seconds to answer. From that dead center point, is that center point going to be found outside of you, or is that center point going to be found inside of you? Which one? If it was, if we had to give out an answer, put a one if you think it's inside, and put a two if you think that it's outside. What is the best part to be in a circle? Be a tree in the wind. You must endure the environment and conditions around you. You cannot uproot your life. I'm loving these answers, bro, because we're eventually going to be talking about um, a tree as well in this circle, which is kind of nuts that you're even saying all of this, man. Appreciate you for tapping in, actually. You have great answers. You have great answers. Something that I brought up not too long ago. If any of you watch any of the other lives and everything, I briefly brought up, even when talking about a tree, the process of a tree. Read Seneca. I definitely will. Thanks for the book recommendation. Who's it by? We're going to add that to the list. We're going to add that to the list. If I pronounce that right, I probably pronounced it wrong. I don't know. I probably pronounced that wrong. Is Seneca by Seneca? Or was that like the name of the book? See what we got here. Philosopher. All right. Okay. So he got a decent amount of stuff. So read. You want me to read his work? Yeah, definitely. I definitely will check him out. Ancient Rome. Definitely. I definitely will. Um, but this is why getting to that center point is very, very important. Once you get to that center point and everything, it won't really matter what's happening on the outside of you. Your main concern is to make sure that your well-being is the priority, and well-being itself. And just as expensive as the universe is outside of you, is just as expensive inside of you as well. Now I'm from the States. I am from the States. It takes a while for some people. Certain people, they can get to that center point rather quickly, but that's like rare. But for majority of people, it takes a really, really long time to get to that center point. And the most amazing, beautiful thing, nah, don't. The most beautiful thing to understand is that that center point is always within you, no matter where you go. It's always with you. That center point is always with you. And to recognize that center point in a circle, you must stay present. You have to stay present. Once you practice self-awareness towards all things and anything that in any given situation, you will be a lot of things will be revealed to you. A whole lot. A whole lot. But unfortunately, majority of people get lost in the cycle right here on the outside. They're stuck on the outside and they don't know how to get here. And the three S's that I constantly talk about in that regard to find a way to get there is being silent, being still and being in solitude at some given point. Not all the time. Human beings are like naturally like social creatures, but you do need some time away from anything and everybody. To spend some time with yourself because you have a greater personality within you that must be unlocked. It has to be unlocked. And I like the fact that Justin brought up a tree. And trees follow this process of that them ups and downs beautifully. The seed of a tree, it goes into the ground. There's a fallen aspect to it, and the seed, which contains the whole entire tree, within something like that, it contains the whole entire tree, and it sinks down in the darkness first, and it get rooted in the ground before it starts to sprout out and break into the light. And we follow that as well. But everything is contained within the seed and not outside of it. But it has to be in the right environment, has to be nurtured in a certain way, and it just can't be placed and put anywhere. There's a lot of things that has to go right in order for that tree to be what it's destined to be. But a lot of times, just bringing us back to like us, is that we try to be things that we're not. And I talked about this the other day from reading one of the excerpts from the Red book of about the importance of living your life and not living an example of somebody else's. How like truly important that is. And a lot of people see um other books, you know what I'm saying? Like, even though I got like a little bit of books like in back of me and stuff like that, I also know how important it is to live my life. A lot of people try to seek guidance from instructors, teachers, pastors, and all of that, but you have to understand that you have an intelligence that's in you that you came here with and that you was born with, just like that seed that was destined to be that tree. That tree wasn't destined to be a squirrel. It wasn't destined to be a flower. It wasn't destined to be a lion. It wasn't destined to be clouds. It was destined to be a tree no matter what. No matter what. And it's something deep inside. That intelligence is deep inside. And you have that same thing. Everything that has life has that intelligence deep down inside of them, for that potential to come out and maturate and be what it was supposed to be. And the absurdity and the craziness that we are experiencing right now at a rapid rate is just that people are being who they wasn't destined to be. It's very alarming when you have trends that go viral and everybody's doing the same thing in the same way. And it's even more dangerous when a lot of people are amused by that. The only reason why I say something like that is dangerous is that brings me to that point of people being examples of other people instead of being themselves. People don't have patience with themselves. And when you don't have patience within yourself and everything, you live in an outer life instead of that inner life. And these trends are a part of this cycle as well. They come and go. The people that's hot today are going to be nobodies tomorrow. That trend that's here now, ain't nobody going to be thinking about it next week. And for you and the way that you live your life, you have to get here. You have to get here at all costs. Oftentimes, where did I put that dry erase marker? Oftentimes, I think I got another one sitting around here. When you're trying to get to that center point, the process is going to be started at any point in this circle, right? and you have to work your way here, no matter where you're at, whether you're starting at a low point or a high point, no matter what, the goal is to get to the center. The goal is for you to get to the center of your being. That is the goal. And by you doing that, you automatically uniting the opposites. Because you're battling those opposites like high key every single day. You battling it every single day. The light and the darkness is within you. The ups and the downs is within you. And it makes a cyclical nature as well. And going back to the tree reference, right? When you're traveling and you're trying to get to that center point, that seed goes down into the darkness first, and then it comes up to the light second. That's the natural way. And something that I talk about a lot. There's another book that breaks this down extensively. Is Joseph Campbell, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, the monomyth. And it breaks down all of these stories from different points and different times from different cultures all over the place that tells the same similar story of this right here, of the circle of life, essentially speaking, especially with the hero archetype. So I'm gonna redraw this circle yet again. All right, we're gonna redraw this circle. That circle kind of suck. That circle trash. What? Man, that circle suck. I'm gonna redraw this circle. Hopefully it's a better one. All right, that's kind of good or whatever. Using a circle as a reference point yet again. We're gonna talk about the three acts. There's 3 acts to a hero's journey and a hero's journey narrative, right? We start in Act 1, right here. We start off with the hero is in the known world, right? And a story that I'm going to use for this in reference to all of this, which is, like I said, it's a universal thing. So pick a hero. It 99.9 times out of 10, it went through this. And in this, the hero starts off in a known world. So everything at the top of the circle is the known world. In a known world, that's where the mundane stuff is happening and everything. The hero's pretty much asleep, and the hero ultimately is not walking in his purpose yet, or her purpose. The hero isn't walking in their purpose yet. So, using the Matrix as the example, Neo was the hero of that story. Neo fit that hero archetype, ultimately speaking. And Neo is in the Matrix, but he don't know he in the Matrix. You know what I'm saying? He ultimately don't know he in the Matrix. So he gets a call about him pretty much going into the unknown world with the agents looking for him. And this is his calling. Oftentimes on a hero's journey, you're going to receive a calling of your true purpose and where you got to go. And this is going to be mysterious. And this is going to be that invitation for you to step into your purpose and your adventure. But you're still, like I said, at the top of the circle in a known world. Oh, love from India. How's it going, man? How's it going? My name is Arrow, by the way, and welcome to the live. Welcome to the live. We're talking about uniting the opposites. So he gets the call, the agents are looking for him, and eventually he hesitates. Remember, Neo was at the edge of like the building and he's hesitating to jump when Morpheus is like telling him to jump. He didn't see Morpheus yet or anything. All of this stuff was like pretty crazy. But like I said, you can recognize these moments in you guys' life personally when you get that call to adventure to step into your purpose. And you have to leave what you know behind. And you have to step into a world that's unknown to you. And Neo eventually steps into that calling and he goes and transitions to the unknown world. And he leaves the Matrix. This is probably like backwards for y'all. I ain't even like think about that. I hope it's not. It'd be like kind of nuts. But all his trials is going to be found for the most part primarily in the unknown world at act number 2, where he's going to meet allies, he's going to meet his biggest threat and all of that. And it's a descendant act. He's falling into the unknown world. And he realizes that his reality ain't what he thought it actually was. Because he's starting to wake up to the light of his purpose. And the real challenges start to present itself unlike any that he experienced before. Right? And then he steps out of the matrix and he sees reality for what that reality is. It's almost like everything is upside down and he got to relearn everything again. Everything. This is where you're going to be initiated in the unknown world and pretty much, essentially speaking, you're going to be initiated into your purpose. Now, a lot of these things is something that you experience internally first and foremost, but it's also going to happen simultaneously outside of you. They're one and the same. They're not separate. And at the bottom of this, at the very bottom, you're going to have some sort of death that occurs, whether you lose the mentor that initiated you into this or whether you die yourself and a rebirth happens at the bottom and you face your greatest foe. And oftentimes the greatest foe in real life is the realization of the shadow aspect of your own self. That's oftentimes the greatest 99.9 times out of 100 times, your greatest foe will be yourself. You're the one that ultimately will limit yourself when it's all said and done, and never project your limitations to outside things. Don't ever do that. Build your self-awareness up and see where you lie in the heart of the matter. A lot of people like blaming other people and other things for their shortcomings and their limitations instead of looking at their thoughts and feelings that really guided them and lied to them to make them feel a certain way about themselves that wasn't true. And they born into a lie. Put into a lie. How insane is that? How insane is that? But eventually, the hero in a story, not all stories, certain stories end with a tragedy where the hero don't necessarily make it out and get consumed by the shadow nature, or the antagonist. The protagonist don't win in all hero stories. If they do end up and it's a good, happy ending, they return from the unknown world to the known world with the gift. So that's also a uniting aspect as well to this circle. On that act one to act two, there's a separation for the hero to go from the known world to the unknown world, and then the return back, which brings everything back together to from the unknown world back to the known world. And they say with the elixir of life, with the boon. And what the boon is the gift to bring back to the people to the known world. And oftentimes in mythology and stories that they tell in a dead circle of that, they say that's the world navel, the tree of life that connects all things together. And I believe they call this the in Latin the anima mundi, the soul of the world. The soul of the world. And I'm encouraging you guys, when you guys get these signs and you get these callings that's pulling you towards your purpose, is going to be scary when you start to recognize that, because like I said, there's something in the universe that God is trying to point you to, and you don't hesitate on taking it. Because oftentimes, the more you keep refusing these calls to your own adventure or walking in the light of your purpose, you won't get the call no more. You're going to stop getting them. And another thing that I'm going to warn you guys on, when you're actually traveling this journey, something in you will die off. It has to die off in order for you to walk in the light of who you truly supposed to be. And when you're transitioning from that unknown world to the unknown world, you're heading from what you thought you knew to what you have to know. And that's leaving the false light and going into darkness to acquire the true light. Like I said, this live is talking about uniting the opposites. And like I said, a lot of things that I'm saying, it may seem paradoxical, but the reality and and what we experience is that there's day and night, there's up and down, there's left and right, there's life and there's death, all of it, and they all come together to form a whole. And there's transition periods between the two. Between day and night, you have evening. Between night and day, you have morning. And like I said, all of that is a cycle as well. From the sun rising and falling. This stuff is like deep, but it happens inside. It truly happens inside of you. And when you walk in and heading towards the light of your purpose, like I said, something is going to die inside of you, and you're going to be transformed in the process. You will be transformed in the process if you truly walk that walk. You're going to lose a lot, because a lot of what you thought you were has to get shed. And for you to be who you were called to be. This morning, when, like I told you guys, like I was out for breakfast with my mom, and this is very, very relevant, is that the prophet Jonah in the Old Testament of the Bible, he refused the call journey of walking in the light of his purpose. So he gets into a boat and he tries to sail in the opposite direction of where he was supposed to go. And what happens is, while he's going in the opposite direction, he ultimately brought a curse onto the boat. The people that were on the boat were pagans, and the seas were going crazy. It was a storm. The winds was going, and the boat was being threatened to literally fall apart at sea. And Jonah knew it was because of him, and he told the people to throw him overboard. The people refused. They recognized that this man was a holy man of God. They converted themselves and they changed. and they tried to row even harder to get the dry land. But eventually they gave in to what had to happen, and they threw Jonah overboard into the sea, and he was swallowed by a great fish. So yet again, we see the rising and falling nature in this story, and Jonah denying his calling ended up in a really really bad situation, and ultimately ended up in a pit of a stomach of a great fish. And he prayed. He prayed to God, and after this prayer, towards the end of this prayer, he vowed that he was pretty much going to, he had to sacrifice his life and for the salvation of the God, for the Lord, for God. And once this prayer was finished, the Lord whispered in the great fish ear, I guess, or whispered to the great fish, and the fish vomited up Jonah onto dry land. So Jonah was on top of the sea. He went into the sea, and then he came out on dry land, and he was a different person, and he accepted the calling and did what he had to do. He headed to Nineveh, and he was talking to the people about repentance. Repentance is the renewing of your mind. Once your mind is renewed, you will carry yourself differently, and you will do different things and conduct yourself in a different manner. And that is what's going to happen on this journey of walking towards your purpose. That's truly what's going to happen. Expect change and expect drastic change at that. But you have to live from that center point. Don't live from the outside. Don't live for events and things and people, because in a sense those things is dead already, because it already happened and it already is. But the meaning that you create within your life is still alive, because you're the one that's creating it. It's coming from you, through you. But also in this process, I also want to encourage you guys to overcome your thoughts and overcome your feelings that you have, and don't identify with those things. Something that I preach here all the time as well. You have to get over it. You have to truly get over it. Those things will leave you halted in life. It's going to leave you stuck, and it's going to leave you projecting what's going on inside of you onto other people. And it's going to give you a false idea of people and things, because you're not seeing things truly for what they are inside of you first and foremost, and it's making its way outside of you. Everything is a reflection of each other. Everything is interwoven and interconnected, and you have to unite the opposites inside of your heart and soul. And the opposite is going to unite outside of you, naturally speaking. Naturally speaking. And within this, by you uniting the opposites, you're going to be living in reality and not no false illusion. One last thing I want to talk about to wrap this whole entire live up is the story of the allegory of the cave. Another thing that I'll talk about constantly, because the story is super profound. But that's another act of ascension and descension. Being stuck on that cave wall in the deep darkness down in the cave, and you looking at false light on the wall. If them shackles just so happen to come off and you're able to roam away from that wall, climb up out. Look at the false light that presented those shadows on the wall. Look at the figures that's casting the shadows, and look at the people that is casting those shadows and making these projections happen in the first place. That's society. This story is timeless. Because even though it was told by Socrates to Plato's brother, this stuff is still relevant thousands and thousands of years later. Right now, it's still relevant. And you're starting from a low point and you climbing on high out the cave to the light of truth, to the natural world, to where the real source of heat comes from not spiritually but naturally speaking. And I'm talking about the sun, which is going to be a blinding experience if you lived your whole entire life in a cave at first. And if you decide to leave that unknown world and come back to the known world where people are blinded, you have to expect resistance from other people that don't necessarily want the truth that you received, and expect people to think that you're crazy. And a lot of great minds and people that were spiritually moved by the truth, they was deeply affected by this, and a lot of them got killed and sacrificed because of it. And Socrates was one of those people who was made to drink poison if he didn't renounce the things that he was saying because of the influence that he was having on the youth. How ironic is that? At first, they thought this old man was crazy, but then they started seeing the influence that he started to have, and they wasn't having it. And they said, you know what, this dude has to go. And the greatest example of that of all time is Jesus Christ. Of that dissension and ascension. And there was one particular story where he was talking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and they was asking for a sign from him, which is an external thing. And he wasn't going to give them the sign. And the sign that he said that they was going to receive is the sign of Jonah. And Jonah is the prophet that I just talked about. And Jonah, the significance of Jonah and the significance of what was said is that Jonah was in the belly of this great fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And after Christ was crucified, this is the sign of Jonah, is that he went to the depths of hell for 3 days and 3 nights, and he rose up again. And those including myself, that believe in the resurrection of Christ, that's what makes our faith who we are, essentially speaking, because we believe in that rise and fall. And we also believe that no deceit was ever found in his mouth, and he spoke nothing but the truth. And he lived the truth. He was the truth. And his truth came from his Father God. And he was the Son of God. But in all of this, instead of being prideful on his origins and his roots, he was extremely humble about it. And he showed what being humble was truly about, but he also showed what it was like to live from that center and that circle that I was talking about. And how to seek the kingdom of heaven and how to live from there. Once you live from the kingdom of heaven, then you must seek the kingdom of God, which is 2 different places and of 2 different significances. It's not the same thing. And the light went into the darkness and brought light to the darkness and overcame the darkness. And life ultimately had the keys to death. You have all of this within you, folks. You have all of this within you. I promise you. And like I said, no other man can teach you what I just said. And also take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to believe me if you don't want to. This is like a free world. You could think, feel, and be whatever you want to be. But don't live a life of a lie. Live the truth that's inside of you. The truth is not outside of you. That's the one thing that I can guarantee. But for anybody that listened to this, that held on until the end, I appreciate you guys. Walk in a lot of your purpose. And if you don't know where that is, seek that out first. And I just told you guys where to seek that out at. And you'll be just fine. And you're going to leave a tremendous impact on this world and the people around you. You don't know the ripple effect that you're causing right now. Just do it honoring the two greatest commandments, and that is to love the Lord your God and to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Serve your purpose. We are going to be going live tomorrow. We're doing a live podcast with Bill Goodwin, CEO of Priority Living Consulting Group. I had a pretty good conversation with him last week. And yeah, he's going to be the next guest on the podcast. And we record that podcast live tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hoping to see some of you guys there. And I'm out of here.